What's up, buddy? What we got going on today?
Oh man, I'm going to get some hieroglyphs, some ancient
Hieroglyphs.
cuneiform etched into my body. So I haven't gotten in touch with it a long time, a real long time. So if you can see here, it's very faded, and I got darker. So I got Nefertiti with pyramids behind, honoring my mother. So I'm gonna get that redone. They're gonna cover it. They're gonna just cover over it. So we'll see how that turns out. These guys are supposed to be the best, so I heard. So, you know, we're gonna go find out. All right, we're gonna go to the gym and do it. They wanna do it at the gym, so that's the vibe today.
What up, bro?
Oh, what's good? Son Jay. You can follow me at Dre Tattoo. We're about to tattoo Mike Rashid today. Let's get it.
The billionaires I know, almost without exception, use hallucinogens on a regular basis.
I was having a conversation, and I had my eyes closed, and I literally was visualizing my thoughts connect rapidly. Yeah. Like, just a heightened sense of intelligence. You know what I'm saying?
What's the duration?
Everybody's different, and it depends on how much you take. Yesterday, I think I probably did about, I'm trying to think what time. 7 o'clock, and then it lasted till about, it's hard to tell. You just go to sleep. You don't realize when it wears off, because it don't keep you up. It's not a stimulant. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so when you micro, what is it? When is it then?
Micro is like, I don't know, 3-4 hours or so. You know what I mean? 5 hours maybe. It's just a nice little lift. Psychologically, you don't feel anything necessarily from that.
I was talking to Blue yesterday. I be so grounded, and I think I got so many like layers of how I set my mind up to prepare myself for the unexpected. That when I get into that space, it doesn't shock my system enough to, you know, allow myself to go through the full experience of like deconstructing my whole world and fractally and putting it back together.
Yeah, you need a deep dive for that.
Yeah.
A microdose will do nothing for you for that.
Yeah.
It does nothing for nobody really deeply. It just lifts you, you know, it elevates you creatively. You know what I mean? I was reading about like Steve Jobs, right?
Yeah.
Steve Jobs, he would not have been able to come up with Apple without being enhanced, enlightened, as you will, you know?
I moved here to work in the Apple garage, building Apple Ones. That was 1976.
That's Daniel Kotke, one of Apple's first employees. And before we all knew Steve Jobs as the creator of one of the most successful companies in the world, Daniel knew him as the guy he used to trip with in college.
You said that Steve had said that LSD was kind of one of the best things he ever did. Why was that?
It expands your consciousness. It could have been mushrooms, it could have been peyote, it could have been any number of other things. Conversely, Steve was never really interested in smoking pot. That did not expand consciousness.
No, enhanced, you know, because they put such a negative stigma on the word enhanced nowadays, like it's bad. But everyone wants to enhance and ascend and be better. So I'll take that away. You know, but him and everyone around him, they all, you know, was tapped in. And even the guys now, currently, they're like, listen, whenever you're breaking down like the engineering issues or whatever, this one guy was talking about how there's problems that I've sat with for a month, stuck. Take a dive, go do something and come up with what he needs to do
It's
and run
funny,
back
that
to
was
it.
my mother told me that years ago on how the scientists used to solve problems back in like the 70s. It was literally that exact analogy or example rather, that they'd be stuck on something, they'd lock themselves in a room with some LSD, and then within an hour it allowed them to come up with it. You know what I'm saying?
They did a study in like the 60s. It was like 20 or so scientists, 48 problems. No one was knocking it out. They solved 40. After LSD, they solved 44 of them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's published. That's a published study.
One study funded by the US government in the 60s took a group of scientists and set them out to solve 48 different physics, math, and architectural problems. Problems that the scientists themselves had been unable to solve. Each scientist was guided through a psychedelic trip, at the end of which 44 of the 48 problems had found solutions.
And that only makes sense because it's like looking at going through every layer of trying to solve a problem from like your dimension of thinking, and then totally like destroying that, all of them frameworks that you use to solve problems, and looking at it from a completely different perspective. And it's like them 10 hours become 1 second. And where you get past your thinking, like to the aha moment, like, oh, this is what it is. It's past the thinking and it's just straight to solution.
Yeah, because your concept of the time-space continuum dissolves. So,
or your concept of thinking.
It's well, with time, right, and space, it dissolves because you can have a month worth of activity mentally in 10 minutes when you in that center of the universe space, you know. And people that I've never done like 5-MeO dimethylene, but I've heard that often. People that tap into that, there's people that have experienced months of a whole nother life and came back. They can give you breakdown of what they experienced, and they was only gone for 10-15 minutes.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So yeah, my concept of time and space was disrupted when I took my deepest dive. You know what I mean? So I get it, man. And here's the thing, like I just yesterday, you know, like I was saying, man, I'm seeing thoughts literally connecting rapidly too. Like I'm understanding. I was able to visualize the process of my synapses, the direction they were going for this part of the brain communicating with that rapidly. And I was able to articulate the thoughts properly, but actually visualize it while I had my eyes closed saying it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, this is so cool.
It got me thinking like, great thoughts is like catching a shooting star. But when you're able to speed up that fast, a shooting star start to move slow, and as your mind rapid, like, let me catch that one. Ooh, that's a dope ass concept.
Okay, so
use that.
So the microdosing gives you that on a regular.
Yeah.
It puts everything in slow motion for you.
Yeah.
You can move, you can adjust how fast or slow you want to navigate, but everything else is slow motion.
Right, because if you can slow the light, you can see it, and you can.
Exactly.
I want that one.
Exactly.
Because I know how my thoughts come. They be so rapid. I let myself go, and I just be grabbing a couple. I might have been 1,000 that let go. I only needed that. I'm just fishing.
I totally relate to that.
Yeah.
So we, you know, here's the thing though. Let's say whatever the compound or the molecule is that one choose to utilize, right? You still have to have a certain level of awareness to really use it properly, because if not, it's not recreational. I want to get that across. Like, I don't want people thinking that you do it for fun. That's not what it's about. That's not the vibe. Here's the thing, let me back it up. People do whatever they want, honestly. So I was having a conversation, we did a podcast and we were talking about Elon Musk, Neuralink, right? And people were so negative in the comments, right? So anti-technology, this, that, and the third, science, whatever. I'm like, look, they said, well, it's gonna be unfair. It's gonna give people an advantage. I'm like, listen, this right here, you could say the same thing. Because Neuralink is just an advancement of this. There's some people that make millions of dollars with their phone. Mm-hmm. There's some people that sit on porn all day or be on social media hating on people. You know what I'm saying? We all have access to the same utilities and tools, but it's how you use it. Some people are destructive, self-destructive, destructive to others. Some people take those tools and build.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that goes towards not being a judge, right?
What?
Like not being a judge. We get caught in our judgments instead of interacting with things in a manner to where they become tools.
Yeah.
If you judge the tool, you become so reflective and you start to filter it and stop seeing it as it is.
Yeah, and you assigning
Bias.
human characteristics to a thing with no soul,
Yeah.
to a tool, to a utility, and that's people shouldn't do that.
And then it kills creative capacity and it kills flow. You can't be in a flow state while you judge. Judgment is like if you would think about thinking as like a spinning wheel, like allowing you to just flow and go. And judgment is like a block, race, sex, right? All of these structures, a block of thinking. So it's burning energy as your psyche could be using that to find opportunity and find innovation and creativity.
Right.
So the person that jumps into it to be like, oh, this is a new tool. How do I use this? Then the other person, it's a new tool. They wait for the other person to tell them how to use it, and they only use it in this technical sense.
Right.
Right? One person judge it completely non-judgmental and say, I want to find my way of using it. Another person say, I don't like this. Let me see how it's affecting everybody, how they using it. Right? This making people lazy. It's too time consuming. This, that, and the third. They personalize the experience and they judge it and they miss on the opportunity on how to use it.
Right.
Even based on their own principles of what they want to advance. You understand me? Because even the people that complain about social media use social media to complain about it.
Exactly.
Right? And raise awareness on how people shouldn't be on it.
It's really a silly conversation. Like,
it's a contradiction.
As these people were filtering the comments, I'm like, it's ironic that you're saying this. You're using YouTube, using the app, using a phone to communicate to me right now.
That's the social dilemma, right?
Yeah.
The social dilemma is that you learn on how social media is pulling in your attention and they're constantly creating an algorithm to keep you attentive to their platform. And then your way of complaining about that is to go use the platform to do it.
You're feeding the beast.
Yeah. So,
but and it's fascinating because I watched that documentary, right?
To me, the documentary was the greatest example of how to market.
I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, what is the problem? This is great. This is great for industry. This is great for businesses, right? It's great for these people complaining because typically the people complaining and have all the issues with it will not be on the side of industry providing jobs and products for people.
But
you know what I'm saying?
But to that point though, it would be greater if there was a world of equality, right? And there wasn't a world where people would use those tools in very nefarious, deceptive ways, right? And those people who have more access to use them in that ways and already more advanced in the race, they're going to be the ones who continue to maintain their power with it, right? So you look at it from this of like, wow, getting into a person's psyche and framework of thinking like, damn, they really got this shit intricate. Like you said yesterday, brilliance versus excellence. These are their systems, right? And you getting into the framework of how they create systems for power.
Give me examples of these people, of these types of rulers or people running the world.
So we can look at more so even megalomaniacs. We can look at Jeff Bezos, right? And not to classify him as just some super immoral man, but in chaos, a person that has all of these systems in place can decide whether he wants to use his position to equalize things and push a certain class of people upward, or do he want to utilize this to strengthen his position and gain dominance in the world, right? And when you look at what a person does, he uses it more so to gain more dominance in the world because his mindset is more power, more control, more rulership, more ownership, right? And so in the world right now, same thing as the narcissism of Donald Trump. He looks at the world wholly as ignorant. He utilizes his narcissism to manipulate reality in whatever way he chooses to, manipulate it because he can, simply because he can, right? And so same thing with, let's say, Mark Zuckerberg. Anybody who is in these positions of higher power. And then you look at banking institutions, you look at family institutions on how they rule. They have no concern over whether they want the average person to live without debt. They want to make sure that they rule over a class of people. Right. You focus on fighting over ownership and slavery and all of that. We just make sure that we are the institutions that control everything around you.
Right. All right. So I follow you 100% on the people that you mentioned. Here's the thing: a lot of these people, their book's not complete yet, right? Especially Zuckerberg. I'm really curious to see what his energy, where it shifts to in another 10, 15, 20 years, right? Because he's young. But you have people like Warren Buffett, right? He out the gate, he was like a bat out of hell. I'm not giving away nothing, right? He got to a point though, to where he did, right? So I was reading about some of the things that he do, and it's impressive. Now, there's people that can, with anybody, that's him. I'm not putting him in Bezos in the same conversation because Bezos, I don't see much that he's doing for anybody, right? So you're gonna have people who will think that someone that you love is a tyrant. You know what I'm saying? And there's gonna be someone that you think is a tyrant, there's gonna be a lot of people who love, right? So it's so subjective, right? Whether tyrannical energy is on top or a righteous energy is on top, you know? And it's all in the eye of who you ask at that particular time. There's no way to gauge the hearts and minds of everybody to see what everybody feels. Doesn't exist. It's all what matters to you, what matters to me, you know. Now, under us, we're gonna have our little ecosystems that we control and that we have dominance over, right? And it's in our best interest, you know, trying to be good people to keep our planets in orbit, to guide our people properly. All right, so we just wrapped. My boy laced me, man. Thank you so much, Dre.
Yeah, you're welcome, Jay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Look, I'm gonna link all your info so people can find you.
Right on.
Good luck though, because the dude is booked for months, but he might make some special, you know, arrangements for somebody out there. Who knows? Anything you want to say, bro?
Nah, if anything, please follow shop at Skin Design Tattoos. You can follow mine, Dre Tattooer. But it was a pleasure tattooing you,
Man,
dog.
thank you, bro. It was good. It was dope, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, we out here.
Peace.